This video is a quick demonstration of SHAKEN Cert Manager. And SHAKEN Cert Manager is solving a very specific problem. If you have a ecosystem where you need to sign calls using STIR/SHAKEN, and you want a way to manage your automated way to manage your SHAKEN certificates, this package will provide that for you. And I ended up building it because while something like SSL certificates has Certbot to be able to do automatic certificate rotation for you, I just couldn't find anything in the STIR/SHAKEN ecosystem that had this same kind of automated management, so I decided to go ahead and build it. So I'm going to show just very quickly about some guidance on configuration, and then I'll show some of the basic commands, and then at the end we'll kind of poke into a server and see how it's actually done in a fully automated fashion. So the first thing to know is that there's 3 different ways you can pass the packaged information. The first is via environment variables, and you can see I've got some set up here in my environment. And the second way is via command line arguments if you want to go that way, and also the third way would be via a config file. And you can see I've got a couple things in here set up in my config file. So you can mix and match. It'll pull from wherever you have your config. I think prioritizes, command line arguments are first, etc. Here I'm going to be pulling these certificates into a temp directory so we can just easily look at them, which I want to show the directory first. You can see what kind of things look like when they first start. So this is sort of, equivalently an empty directory. The only thing I really have in here are some hooks that I put in to be able to, I'll show you what those do later, and then the account key to communicate with the Acme server. Now this particular package integrates specifically with Peering Hub, which has a good documented Acme protocol for issuing SHAKEN certificates, and is also the cheapest certificate authority that I found. So that's one thing to know, is it integrates specifically with Peering Hub. So if we look at the status command, which will show us the current status of the certificate management, you can see that there are no active certificates. So that means that I need to issue one. There is a special command called issue initial that will issue the very first certificate. I'm going to go ahead and punch that up. And you'll see here it's going to go through the whole process. It's all automated. It's going to talk to the STIPA to get a SPC token. It's going to then take that token and send it to Peering Hub. It's going to request a certificate. It's going to poll for the existence of the certificate. And when it's all done, it's going to grab that certificate and download that and the chain and everything, all automated. So you can see that was one run. It did all that whole mess for you instead of having to do all those things separately. So if we look in the directory again that I showed you, you'll see there's a lot more stuff in here now. So just as a breakdown, this archive section is where the actual files live. And then the manager uses a very similar symlinking system to how Certbot works. So in the live directory, I've got this particular iteration of a certificate that was generated, and inside there is symlinks back to the actual files. And then there's a special current symlink inside the live directory that points at the most current certificate, and when certificates are rotated, these symlinks are updated, meaning that this current symlink is always going to point at your latest certificates, which is very convenient. The other thing to know is that the issue initial command is, like other commands here, basically idempotent. So if I try to issue another certificate and I've already got one, issue another initial certificate and I've already got one, you'll see that it just skips it because there's already a certificate. Now let's look at status again so we can see that the status has definitely changed here, and there's a lot more information. So this is just a bunch of information about the most recent certificate, the active certificate that was issued. You can see here that it's valid for 364 days. The default is 45 days before the certificate expires. It will try to renew if you use the renew command. And there's just tons of information in here, some of which you may or may not care to see. Status also can be used for monitoring. So if you have a generic monitoring server and you want to get structured data back for it, you can use the JSON switch to status, and it gives you basically the same information in a structured format, so you can parse it and use it for monitoring. I use the Nagios version, which is a Nagios compatible plugin version. I use it on my Asinga 2 server to get Nagios compatible monitoring stuff, which allows me to just plug this straight into my monitoring software, and then I can get alerts if there's something going wrong and the certificates aren't being renewed for whatever reason. Okay, so let's look at the renewal process. So back before I said that these commands are basically idempotent. So the expiration date or renewal date, sorry, on these certificates should be 45 days before, and this certificate has 364 days left. So if I use renew, you're going to see it's a lot of mess here for debug output, but essentially here it says renewal not required. because the certificate is still valid for 364 days. So it's just skipped it. So this is the command, this renew command here is the one you would use on your server and put it in, like a systemd or cron tab entry, and it could just run over and over again, because you could just run it as many times as you want, and it's not going to actually issue a certificate renewal until it gets inside the configured window of how many days before the certificate expires do I want to try to do a renewal. Now, if you want to do a renewal even when it's outside the renewal window, there is a command for that. It's called force renew. So I'm going to show that now. Force renew will just bypass any check for when the most recent certificate expires and issue you a new one. So you'll see here it's a dangerous command, so you basically have to be forced to confirm it. And then it's going to go through the very same basic process that you saw in issue initial, which is just that whole mess of getting the SPC token and querying the Acme server on Peering Hub and downloading the certificate, etc. And at the end here, I can show that tree again, and you'll see how things have changed a little bit. Now we have the original certificates here still stored. This is the newest iteration. It's done by timestamp and an identifier, so they're generally in chronological order. This is the newest one. You'll see the live directory still has both, because technically both of these are live. Neither one of these certificates has expired yet. But the current link now points to the very newest certificate that was issued. And so that's really the elegance of the management of the certificates, is that this package is doing all of that stuff for you. So you can just have it hooked into a cron job or a systemd timer to issue that renew command, and when it actually activates, it will handle the rotation of the certificates for you. So the only other thing worth showing, I guess, would be what it looks like inside of a systemd setup or a cron setup, and I think I have that here. And under examples, yeah, you can see a cron setup is very straightforward. It's just you're just calling the cert manager, and you're passing in a config and issuing a renew command. It's really that simple. The only things once you have your configuration set up the way you want it, you really just need to pass it the config file and the renew command. And you can do this. I think this is set up to do it every day at midnight. My cron foo is a little weak, but I think that's once a day at midnight is what that one's doing. I prefer the systemd one. It's a little more elegant. So you can see the service for the systemd here. Same thing. It's just calling cert manager and passing it the config and the renew command. And this is set up on a timer, which runs, I think it's twice a day or something, and with some variants. So this is basically a little more elegant way to set it up. If you have a system that works on server that works with systemd, you can set it up so that this will be your timer. So you've got the package installed, you've got it properly configured, and you would have it. You would have these, basically files driving the renewal process in your server, and that's pretty much all you would need to be able to do full-on SHAKEN certificate management. The other thing I would point out quickly is that that package relies on another base package that I built called SHAKEN Toolkit, and it just has lower level arguments. You can issue individual Peering Hub certificates. You can do inspections of individual certificates. It's just a lower level library that allows you to do some of the more basic operations, but the SHAKEN Cert Manager is kind of using that library and that's lower level functionality to be able to do its job.